April 18th, 2022. We do not have a quorum here, so we will call to order this meeting without a quorum, and we will not be voting or moving on any actions, but we will receive presentations and continue otherwise with the agenda. So welcome, everybody. My name is Dwight Otwell. I am the current chair of the Raleigh Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and I would like to welcome everybody to our second meeting in a row back in person. We're on a streak this time. So let's go down the line and have everybody introduce themselves with their name and the committee that they work on.
I am Celeste Bravo Taylor, and I am on the Planning Committee.
I'm Tammy Stern, and I'm also on the Planning Committee.
Mary Jo Gallenbeck, Planning Committee.
Nick Neptune, Outreach Committee.
I'm Elizabeth Alley. I'm on the Policy Committee.
Joe Caruso, Policy Committee.
And over to the other side of the table.
Fontaine Burris, Bicycle and Pedestrian Program Manager.
Barbara Godwin, Micromobility Coordinator.
And B Person, Outreach and Bicycle and Pedestrian Outreach Coordinator,
All right. Thank you very much, and everybody welcome back. We're going to skip approval of the minutes since we don't have a quorum to vote on it, and we'll move right on to the public comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like the opportunity to speak? We welcome you to come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone, members and staff. My name is Mary Sell, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Oaks and Spokes, a local advocacy organization in place to help advance a more sustainable and equitable transportation model for Raleigh. I came before you last month to inquire on status of the transportation budget for the upcoming 5-year cycle. To date, it appears that of the $222 million 5-year budget cycle, that only $200,000 is being allocated annually to standalone bikeway implementation. Oaks and Spokes believes that paint is not protection, and if we wish to build a better transportation model, safe for all ages and abilities, that our budget will need to reflect shared values for safer infrastructure for all. $200,000 is a marginal sum and will be completely insufficient to help us reach our goals for a better transportation model for all in our community. I wanted to come before you today to inquire on the status of that budget review and see if there have been discussions on additional amplification for our bikeway implementation. Additionally, I wanted to use this public comment opportunity to highlight upcoming events Oaks and Spokes is helping to host. On April 23rd, we'll be hosting a garden tour by bike in partnership with Raleigh City Farm and others, highlighting sustainable homes in Raleigh that have started on-site gardens. On April 28th, we'll host our monthly Advocacy Through Action event with a highlight and focus on Southwest Raleigh and barriers for connectivity in that neighborhood. In May, we are working with the City of Raleigh and many other partners to help host Bike Month events as well. All events can be found at oaksandspokes.com/Bike Month, and I believe the city also has a page hosting for events. So I just had that question for staff and for the commission about the specific standalone budget item for bikeway implementation, but I don't need to take an answer now. Just wanted to put that pin in your guys' mind. Thank you.
Is now a good time to just expand on what Mary had brought to our attention? Or
Sure. We inquired and asked staff to give us a presentation on the budget, and they're like, what part of the budget? We have a whole department that devotes a whole year to it every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big issue. And so we further refined during our agenda talk what we would like to hear about. And I think we're looking for next month before we could get the speakers that we wanted to talk about how to understand where this number comes from in the first place before we ask council for something.
Yes, for the BPAC retreat next month, we have put on the agenda a presentation on the budget, both the FY23 budget and also just the process and overview of how the budget is formed.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Believe that does it for the public comments. And when we were doing introductions, I think we missed our parks liaison. Might have stepped out for a moment. If you want to stand up, Christina Jones in the corner over there. We'll have a moment when we talk about parks. And moving on from the public comment, we will go into the presentations portion of the meeting, and we have a Triangle Bikeway implementation report. Thank you for coming, and I'm sorry we didn't reach quorum, so we'll, hopefully you don't need us to vote on anything tonight.
It's quite all right. Thank you very much. This will, I know, be given as as an item on the Raleigh City Council agenda in the month of June. So we're fine with regard to that. So thank you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kenneth Withrow. I am one of the transportation planners with the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here, and I'll be brief with regard to this presentation. If I have to stop, I'm being economical with regard to my words because we're in allergy season, and it's easy to, when you enunciate, your throat get dry. So I'll be very careful with regard to that. So let me just quickly bring to your attention with regard to the bikeway, and largely what I want to use this platform is to briefly discuss the Triangle Bikeway, what we are attempting to accomplish, and where we go from here. The issue is going to be the economy of energy that needs to be constant as we move forward from report study to ultimate construction of this bikeway. Will I turn next slide, or will someone be doing that? Okay, let me see. Okay, all right. Excuse me. Let me just quickly introduce this as a project and the fruition of this particular project. Of course, the study area encompasses Raleigh all the way to Chapel Hill, but the initial stage of this project had begun back in 2000. It was initially, or even earlier than that, the concept had been in the minds of many city Raleigh planners and within the community as traffic was really beginning to, I-40 was becoming more congested, excuse me. The idea of a bikeway from Raleigh out to Research Triangle Park had come to fruition. And the idea was to look at a possible bikeway from Raleigh to Research Triangle Park. Following the adoption of the first regional bicycle pedestrian plan on March 19th of 2003, after that it was dormant. What had happened by 2016, 2017, with some interest in our community, there was a desire, particularly by Wake County, to see if a feasibility study could be done. It was originally called the I-40 Bikeway. The study was completed in 2017, and then from that point, the desire was to see if we could continue it beyond the park and include the Durham Chapel Carrboro MPO in it, and they were willing to sign on, and we began the study in 2020. Let me give you a background real quick, and I'll be quick with regard to this slide. There was a lot of public involvement and public engagement with regard to this. That was very key as we were moving forward with regard to this study. Like I said, the study had begun on March 31st, April 1st of 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic wave. And so we had to make some adjustments in terms of how people would be engaged in the project. The wonderful thing about the project, we got a lot of engagement, and I'll talk about that a little bit further. A key piece and a vehicle that is still active is trianglebikeway.com. This was managed and is still managed by the consultant team that had been a part of the particular project, and now that the report is complete, they're still willing to manage this. And so there's still an opportunity to see future content on this particular subject. It hasn't changed much since the report has been out, but over time, as this process evolves from being a working group to being a regional advisory committee, and I'll talk about that later, you're going to see more content. Let's see, going the wrong way, there we go. Excuse me. One of the key elements with regard to this is the elected officials. We made sure that we talked with the mayors of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Morrisville, and Durham, and Cary in this particular process, and we had a lot of interest as expressed by our Wake County Commissioner and Durham County Commissioner, who are also with both the Capital Area MPO and the Durham Chapel Hill Carborough MPO respectively. Key to this particular exercise, we had a working group. Well, let me explain why I say had. It is now evolved. The working group basically consists of all these particular groups and interested participants that met on a regular basis from the beginning of the study to the very end of the study. This group has now been transitioned from a working group to, again, the Triangle Bikeway Regional Advisory Committee. This is now housed at TJ Cog. They're managing it. We're going to talk about it a little bit further because your help and participation on that, if you're not already engaged in that, is going to be very key. Important to the study are community values. There were 9 key values, noting, of course, from equity to resiliency. We wanted to make sure that this was a thoughtful process in terms of a facility. It was going to be more than just a feel-good facility. It was going to be something that the region can coalesce around and have interest in and engagement in, as long as this project is in the public and regional presence. That is very key with regard to this, and that's why all these elements that we see are important in this study and what we were trying to capture. Excuse me. Key to this particular study, and let me just give you some background with regard to this, there were over 100 alternatives looked at as we were doing the study. So let's me explain some things with regard to that. We had our initial public engagement, which began in July of 2020, concluded on November of 2020. We had over 2,113 people engaged in that. They provided their input as to what they were looking for in terms of a facility or facilities that would constitute the Triangle Bikeway. Following that input, in the months of from November, or actually December, through April from December 2020 to April of 2021, we were heavily engaged in the engineering aspect of what would make a valuable and important Triangle Bikeway. So these alternatives were looked at, and in the process of doing that, oops, I keep going the wrong way. We ultimately came up with a recommended alignment after we looked at approximately 9 values or variables associated with this region. This included a lot of engineering, looking at input from the public as to where they would access the facility, looked at existing right-of-way, what would be available to be utilized for a future bikeway, and various points where people could access this, particularly in Research Triangle Park, where people can not only bike and walk, but also use opportunities for micro-mobility in the park area as well. So we looked at a lot of factors, and we had come up with this recommended alignment from 15501 in Chapel Hill, near Lenox, Glen Lenox area, all the way to the I-40 bridge by the Art Center. This is your typical section. The typical section will be 20 feet with 2-foot aprons on both sides, your 5-foot paths for bicyclists, and a 6-foot section for pedestrians. Of course, note the feature that's going to be very key, of course, is the striping, the lighting, and a lot of other amenities that would be incorporated in this particular project. So it's just not a trail, it is a true active desired bikeway that we're wanting to ensure that those who have been engaged and said that they've had an interest in it, as well as others from wherever they come, would have access to this. And we want it to be a regional facility, but also recognized nationally in its value. And this is just a general explanation as to, with regard to the Triangle Bikeway is not a typical greenway, and these are some of the highlights I wanted to note with regard to that. We did construction costs as is required. We're not going to talk in depth about construction costs. Why? Because number one, yes, they're done in a base year, but as we can tell with regard to the economy and what's going on in the economy, nationally, globally, statewide, we don't want to hone in on exact costs, saying that those are final costs. Those will change, and there's just a fear in basically saying that this is what the cost is going to be, and we're stuck at a particular number. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a moment. Let's see if it'll do that. And I'll just bring up a particular segment. When we're looking at it, for example, current year cost to bill year cost in 2025 to 2030, we see that there is a difference. And so the same applies to the Raleigh area. So what we have done is just highlighted, we've done the cost estimate exercise. We have generated costs based on the various variables that we looked at, and we just noted that it's there, but it's not a, there are a lot of caveats associated with the cost. I'll just basically put it that way. And this is the Campo segment as well. One of the things and features that's included within the report is the sample segment cut sheet. As you can see, it gives you the segment, it gives you what the profile of the typical section will be for the particular project, where there are at-grade crossings, the destinations that will serve, potential right-of-way needs. So a lot of comprehensive information is provided in the example cut sheet, and they're done for all the segments. There are a total of 7 segments going from 15501 to the I-440 Art Center Bridge. The implementation piece, this is going to be very, very valuable over time. NCDOT, we can't thank them enough for their participation in this exercise. They had given some background with regard to costs or associated costs that involve access to particular properties. We've got a lot of input and support from the municipalities, particularly in the early stages as we had begun this particular exercise. A lot of input from the advocacy organizations. The private sector is very key and will continue to be very key. And of course, the various state and regional partners have been tremendous helpers in this. The energy that they have provided is going to be necessary to continue this as we try to bring the project into fruition. I'll just quickly go over the various scenarios and just note what they are. They're accelerated, incremental, and we had various gradual steps. And basically with regard to the acceleration is if Durham and Wake County were to fund and design the Triangle Bikeway and submit for a raised grant fairly soon to get construction done on the corridor, that would be optimal and greatly appreciated. We're working on the details on how we can get those mechanisms established, and I'll talk about that a little bit further as we talk about implementation, because there are mechanics to the implementation that are going to be very important. The other is basically incremental, where we look at participation by the various towns, Research Triangle Park, and the construction of the bikeway. The gradual would be using NCDOT funds, of course, if we could get access to funds through NCDOT, as well as looking at municipal and regional partnerships and NCDOT as an independent as a partner in developing an independent project. All of those things are necessary if we were to go through the various scenarios of doing this. In every single case, they're going to take time, but the importance is the commitment from the community in ensuring that we get a good project. We've looked at the implementation plans and the action plans. We're still working on those particular details. And right now, in terms of an implementation strategy, as I've mentioned, we transitioned from a bicycle, pedestrian, or triangle bikeway working group. We're now the Triangle Bikeway Regional Advisory Committee, which basically consists of those who have participated in the work group, along with Capital Area MPO, Durham Chapel Carborough MPO, housed at Research Triangle Park through TJ Cog. We are developing the mechanisms to ensure that this stays fresh and current. We're looking at strategies in which we could utilize 501c3 to raise funds, to get support, and hopefully we'll look at ways in which we can fine-tune the committee that it will not only have standing, but there is a mechanism by which they report and share information with the various political groups in our area, whether the cities, Durham Chapel Carborough MPO, Capital Area MPO, whomever, so that this project stays in the forefront of what we're attempting to do regionally. Oops. So thank you all very much for this opportunity. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, and thank you again.
All right. Thank you very much. I'd open the floor to discussion and questions.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
You know, I always have a question. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for this presentation. It is an exciting study, and I do hope that it comes to fruition. I'm curious to know, as far as the width of the lane itself, I noticed that the bike lane was only 5 feet in width for one direction. So 2 5 feet next to each other. Since handlebars typically stretch about 2 feet or more, that side-by-side social experience using the 5-foot lane would be prohibited. Is there any reason why they chose 5 feet, or is there a potential for it to be expanded to 6 feet travel lanes to encourage more of that social component that it really caters to the female rider at large too?
I don't think the opportunity is closed on that. What we wanted to do, basically do, is design something that was economical and would work at a good cost. Taking that into account, that does not hinder the opportunity for expansion, but it will have to be addressed as these segments come into fruition, that it's noted by the public, and I'll say the public, that this is what the public wants. This is what the city of Raleigh wants, town of Cary, whomever, and that there be consistency along the bikeway. Very key in what you're talking about is going to be the Triangle Bikeway Regional Advisory Committee. The mechanisms in place for where it can change, that it be brought to their attention and these things addressed. Because as you're talking about that, recognize that's an added cost. And so as soon as you add that cost, that affects everything else from right-of-way purchase to any other thing that's essential to ensuring that you have a good project.
Yeah. And so we would go to that website to reach the advisory commission to inquire?
You should be able at this time to provide comment. Also, when we have our future meetings, and I don't know who may be in this group that is on that committee, it would be worthwhile to have that voice. But I'm noting that down as a part of our discussion at this particular moment in time, the desire for a 6-foot
Thank you. And it really is to induce ridership. It's not all just based on my needs. It's about reaching the majority. And then this probably the question is too big, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there any discussion on the impact of the air quality with the Triangle Bikeway being so close to the highway motor vehicle traffic?
There had not been any particular discussion associated with that. We noted that as this project comes into being, we noted that there is going to be a change over time in the type of vehicle fleet that will be using I-40. We're expecting that the fleet by 2030, 2035 will have more of an electric vehicle component to it.
Okay.
With that in mind, there should be a better experience for those bicyclists. That's one. The other thing, recognize there is that foliage canopy that does provide some benefit for those who are going to be accessing. It's going to be difficult in the summertime, but there is that component there.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? And we've just started receiving the emails and the invitations for the monthly meetings. I was sad to see it get canceled last week, and look forward to the next one. And we'll keep up a report going on that.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do you have any type of like a phasing program in mind? Whereas, I mean, I assume this is going to be a multi-year, potentially multi-decade capital project. Are there any kind of specific plans to do individual sections that may be useful on their own before a section that's in the middle of nowhere is done? Have a section in RTP that can be standalone by itself useful, or is it envisioned to be a larger, do 2 or 3 big chunks at one time?
Good question. That question has yet to be answered, because one of the things that's significant is in this process is that there has been expressions within the community to provide funding to do NEPA, to eventually get a raised grant. We don't know which segment that could cover. We know that it would cover a great chunk of the particular project. With that in mind, those details are still being worked out. And hopefully over time, as we stay engaged on this, we can eventually come to the knowledge as to which segments or which segment can begin first, and then begin the process of building.
Okay, and then I guess a follow up to that. I mean, I know that a lot of the details will depend on, kind of what avenue the project goes down. But from an overall perspective, I mean, how does the study think about funding? I mean, is it going to be mostly funded at the county level? Is it going to be, are you mostly intending on trying to get federal grants, NCDOT money? I mean, is there going to be a city match? I assume there's going to be a city match, at least at some percentage. What do you have any just kind of general idea how that cost share is going to break down, and where you're going to look for money to come from?
We're looking at any and every
whoever will give it
avenue that's possible. That's still open, and one of the key components as we were doing the study from the beginning to the end, the issue of funding was always apparent. And so we're going to look at every avenue possible to make some things happen. And stay tuned, particularly with regard to the committee, and you'll see things happen. So over the next few months, you're going to see more information coming out. But again, it's going to be important to continue to stay committed and engaged in this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a clarification. So this, the whole distance is going to be completely new. Like, you're not sort of laying out the route on any existing greenways or anything like that. This is 100% a new route.
This is 100% a new route. Let me be clear with regard to that. We are looking at, in one of the projects, particularly around Research Triangle Park, we are looking at not building within the roadway, but within the right-of-way of a particular highway to incorporate a multi-use path that would encompass or be a part of Triangle Bikeway. Small, but there. Most of it will be totally new.
All right. Well, I've been hearing about this for 20 years now. I'm really excited. So I look forward to seeing it move forward. Yeah. But,
Sorry.
please, go ahead.
I think I noticed during the presentation, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I think, like Chairman Otwell, I too have been hearing about it for some time, and it's good to see the update. But I thought that I saw as a consideration equity mentioned somewhere along the line as a value or as a consideration with the bikeway, and I wonder if you could speak to exactly how that was taken into consideration for the project.
Sure. Excuse me. With regard to equity, as we were doing the study, and I'm going to initially go back to the beginning of the study, when we were getting public input, one of the elements we did was a survey. Within that survey, we also took into account, within the study area, the demographics of the populations that were there. From the survey, we saw that one segment of the population had a higher participation rate than the population that, I'm going to say it wrong. There was there was a segment of the population that expressed themselves in the survey that did that in terms of the community that was there, it did not fully represent the community that was there, okay? So what we did was, in light of that, if everybody understands what I just said.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Understand.
I want to make sure. So before we went further, we wanted to make sure we looked at the population that was there. We looked at who did the survey. We said, hold it just a moment. We were deliberate in ensuring that we canvassed and engaged through focus groups those populations that were underrepresented. We were key, and again I'm going to say deliberate, in ensuring that those populations were engaged, and they did come, and they were engaged in that. And so we were glad with regard to that particular process, and it's going to be important that that opportunity continue. And so it's going to be essential, and it was also expressed to one of our members here in the Raleigh City Council about that we continue to be deliberate in that process, and that there be a commitment from that and those communities, not just one, those communities to stay engaged with the process.
Is it Mr. Withrow?
Withrow, that is correct.
All right, I want to thank you for that response and that deliberate consideration so that this investment could benefit the entirety of our growing community. You hear what I'm saying?
Understood.
That's deeply appreciated.
You're quite welcome.
And it also sounds like you and your team and the folks you're working with, you're seeking to make sure that equity is an ongoing, deliberate consideration, right, all throughout the implementation of this project. If I heard that correctly, is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, not only for that, but anything dealing, particularly as it regards to transportation planning. When we do, and I'm going to go off on a tangent for just a brief moment, so let me just quickly mention this.
Please do.
As an MPO, our public engagement process wants to ensure that there is equity involved in this particular exercise. When we go for certification every 4 years, the federal government comes and checks and says, what have you been doing to address this? We want to meet the criteria and go beyond the criteria. And the staff that we have, and I'm going to give credit to our staff, our public engagement officer, Bonnie Parker.
Hey, Bonnie.
She has done a good job in ensuring that we have that equitable piece involved.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that I am familiar with Ms. Parker and deeply appreciate her work.
Okay, absolutely, great, perfect.
Yep. Thanks again. I'm very excited. Please let us know how we can support you, and be happy to vote on any proposal you'd like to bring for us at a time when we reach quorum.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Right. What time is it? 6:49. I think that we can go into our next item. All right, so next up, our next subject is going to be our fiscal year 23 work plan. And this is just added to the agenda as of the last call, I believe. So the intention here is to have an overview of the work plan and get an idea for work that will happen in committee over the next month. So we want to get a broad discussion of what the work plan is and our work over the past year. Take that to committee and do the final tweaks or the real work of hammering out what you want your committees to be working on for the next year. And then we'll come together at the BPAC retreat next month. Do we have a location yet?
Location is tentatively Raleigh Union Station.
So we'll
We're
come
still
together.
working on confirming that location.
And hopefully that time we'll vote on the work plan, so it'll be ready for the council to approve in time for the next fiscal year.
And I will add, we have included the work plan in your agenda packet. Barbara, thank you for that. For people to look at and think about, and we will be asking the committees to use their committee time for this month to start thinking about the work plan for their individual committees. And we will be also be designating some time at the retreat for the committees to work on their work plan, and also for the BPAC as a whole, the commission as a whole, to work on the general commission initiatives.
Ask a question, comment. I think it would be helpful because we receive so much information, I think it would be helpful to understand, if it is available, what the, I guess, transportation planning's group's work program is for the upcoming year. I don't know if that's contained in like a broader, like if there's been a council approved work plan, or if it's tied to a budget, or basically what we can anticipate coming towards us, and making sure, for example, like with Capitol Boulevard North, having the bandwidth to be able to give that the attention it deserves within committee, or perhaps even being proactive and understanding what is being scoped and delivered to council for authorization to work on, right? I think we would have probably had some comment about that project at its inception. But I think we would also have perhaps more positive comment about some other items as well. So making sure that we're supportive of staff and also kind of strategic in our time. Thanks.
We can try to pull some of that information together for you.
I think that helps us a lot with the planning committee, but with policy, you know, it's kind of hard to see where the next Harris Teeter is going to get built that's going to draw our attention to some sort of deficiency in a policy that gets us
Fortunately,
involved.
we knew about that one for the past 3 years. It would be useful. This might be, you know, hopefully not overstepping our bounds, but understanding what might be on the radar for text change committee, city council, perhaps even if transportation planning staff or current planning, long-range planning staff is working on any text changes that might deserve our attention over the next, say, 6 months.
Well, and if I could echo the sentiment, I think even with regard to, say, something like our bike plan potentially being revisited, that's something that outreach and engagement as a subcommittee would love to support and officially adopt into our work plan.
Right. I know there are conversations, internal conversations amongst the city's strategic plan, but I'm not sure where our organization dovetails with that. I don't know if that would come from a council referral or not. But anyways, just understanding what efforts are being made by relevant city staffs, so how we can focus our attention there.
Great. And provided some general comments that when we bring our work plan to council. It'll be probably the June meeting. We'll bring it to the June meeting, hopefully. And they will, hopefully, at that time approve it. In the past, they have made changes and they have sent it to their various committees. And even the friendly councils will sometimes add addendums to our work plan, and they're free to do so. So we also will present a slideshow or a talk about what we've accomplished for the past year. So I would love to hear anything now, to start taking notes, or if you can come up with any thoughts over the next year about what you thought went well, what you thought major frustrations were, or things you thought that we wanted to get at but couldn't quite get at. So you paint a realistic picture of what we've been up to. I'd appreciate that, because now I look back on it and I'm like, it's hard to remember a year. So it's been a long year.
Well, that coupled with COVID.
Yeah, so it's like there's a blur. So I would appreciate all the help I can get on that. The big ones that come to my mind are the tiered policy, tiered text change that we're hoping to work on and have had some progress with. And the bike text change was implemented over a year ago now, right? So that's no longer on this past year.
I think that was adopted last fall, winter, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
that was
remember
huge.
It
Yeah.
happened some time ago.
TC3.
And
TC 321.
I can tell you, TC
Yeah,
21.
that was a big deal. We should celebrate
Because it
that.
said 21 in front of it, doesn't mean it.
Okay.
I think it adopted in 21, but.
I've just been
started
talking about it for
in
so long, it's gotta be
21.
ancient history now, right? Like, this is like
Since
5 years,
2019, if
right.
I'm not mistaken.
More than 2 years ago.
We got a text change adopted. I think that's what's important.
It was
It
officially
was a big
adopted
one.
last September, October, November, around that time. But even, in addition to that, I think that as a commission, we expressed an interest in participating in activities and opportunities with other commissions and boards, like our friends with Parks, Recreation, Greenways, Advisory. We certainly were proactive in sort of reestablishing those connections and getting out into our community and participating in more than one, Greenway cleanup. And we're continuing to do so. So that I think is also, just an example. I think, we could probably go through a whole litany, but we won't take the time right now to do so. But I'm just offering up, I think we had a very productive year. A year of robust activity and engagement, from planning to policy to outreach. So kudos to this commission and to city staff. We couldn't do it without you. Seriously.
Well, that's a perfect lead into something I'd like to note that stood out for me was when the city staff consulted with BPAC on the Whitaker Mill resurfacing project. I really enjoyed the engagement. I felt like our voices were listened to, and they came out with a result that I think worked for everybody here in Raleigh.
In West Street.
Thank you, Mary Jo. And if I may follow through on that, we had last late summer, early fall, brought to our attention some, let's say, displeasure from the West Street corridor. And this commission was proactive and engaging the corridor, the business owners, the whole host of stakeholders in understanding the concerns, right? And then taking that back to our team with city staff. And as I understand it, we are working today, to identify 2-3 new approaches that reflect those concerns. I'd probably say 2 if I had to correct that statement to be clear. But the point of it is, here again, just another example of the proactive nature of this commission in our work over the last year.
Wonderful. I'm going to try to follow that up, but it's not going to be pretty. Planning has a lot of stuff that they've gone over too, but it's not as dramatic because city staff bring them a project and they make a lot of comments about widths of bicycle lanes, and it just doesn't hit as hard. So we're going to look on. We're going to be leaning on the outreach committee for the report, I believe. When we go to council.
I would also I believe it was last month, or last year, I think it was, or this year, whatever. The New Bern BRT project. I mean, I know BPAC was, and the transit board, both were very active in kind of shaping that project to really improve it and make it as good as we can. So.
We've participated in the Greenway advisory committees and that
Greenway
master plan
Yeah,
update.
Greenway master plan update.
It's now on the desk of council, if not mistaken.
I believe it is.
I'd also like to note the BPAC's participation in bringing the concern of the residents in the Five Points area to the Glenwood Avenue and the Five Points intersection.
We'll be talking about that again in announcements, I imagine. Some. I did. I actually wrote that down up here. Yeah, I think some of the feedback that we've had about the work plan is that it could be a little bit more focused and a little bit less fluff. And I think that especially under some of the general commission initiatives, we could dispense with some of the more general items. Like I think it would be implied by the existence of this commission that we will encourage swift implementation of non-automobile infrastructure. Yes, I think there's some things that can go without saying here, and I'm happy to let them go without saying in this document. So that's the kind of cuts and trimming that I hope that we can make in committee over the next month. And so take a critical eye to your planning, to your subcommittee items and see if there's anything specific that needs to be added or general or unfocused that we can trim or bring into focus. Does staff have anything in particular they'd like to add about our work on the work plan, or how's it been working from your point of view? Get your things to us in a reasonable time, or do we need to figure out a better way to get this stuff on the calendar, or are we last minute on our approaches?
I think my only suggestion or recommendation would be to think about being intentional with what your goal is and what you're looking to achieve in the next year, and work backwards from there to write out your work plan, so that committees can be focused in what they're trying to achieve.
Bring it on.
I guess real quick to that point, I have a question for staff. A lot of the policy committee's work plan revolves around Vision Zero. So I wanted, in preparation for reviewing or updating the work plan, I'd like to understand what the kind of current status is as far as I know we're hiring somebody and all of that. I just wanted to know what the latest is.
Position was recently posted. There was some internal hiccups with the posting, so it got posted, came down, got posted again, came down, and then was reposted a third time, I believe.
Funded a budget cycle ago? Wasn't it funded a budget cycle ago?
Yes, so part of there's been a little reorganization happening within the Department of Transportation that is affecting our group and the Vision Zero position. They were working to finalizing that reorganization before posting the position. So that has been posted. I believe it is still open, and I don't have a status on how many applicants they have right now. I am not involved in that hiring process. I do know that position is not going to be housed under transportation planning. It is going to be housed in the transportation engineering group with safety, headed by Jed, who I know has presented to you guys a few times.
Okay, thank you.
Ready to move on? Well, we will send that to committee and look forward to having a more detailed discussion at the retreat next month.
What are the hours of the retreat?
I think we settled on 4 to 7 was
4 to 7?
was the pretty near unanimous vote.
Okay, thanks.
For those that have responded so far. Coming up next is going to be the chair's report, and I don't have much of a report. I've not had a recent meeting with our liaison. He's supposed to be, as of our last meeting, working on getting the recommendations or a discussion started around the tiered development policy that we have. And so that's my number one item on the list for him. We received a invitation to join the Triangle Bikeway Planning Committee, Subcommittee. What was the name of the committee? I had not heard of it, so I think that we started talking about it and got added to the list. I think somebody might have prompted that. So it's good to get involved with those discussions, and I think that we might need to officially designate a liaison so that somebody can be focused on following that conversation. So folks should start to think about it. That'd be something they'd be interested in. Besides that, that'll do it for my report. Moving on to committee reports, we'll start with Pierre, and he's not here, so we'll quickly move on to Joe and the policy committee.
Well, I don't really have an update either. So we'll the policy committee, due to holidays and stuff, did not meet last week, but will meet this Thursday, and it looks like we're now working on the work plan. We are planning to look at signalized intersections and adding pedestrian signals to intersections that have signals but don't have pedestrian signals, and most of the time don't have painted crosswalks or any real pedestrian facilities. It's just a traffic signal. So that's going to get shifted 1 month, and then we'll work on the work plan this month. But stay tuned for that.
Well, as it happens, Outreach is in the same boat as our folks and friends with planning and policy. We were scheduled to meet last week, but as it happens, we had a number of scheduling conflicts, and given the sort of new composition of our subcommittee, we are looking to reschedule that meeting altogether, and we will do that in coordination with our outreach coordinator, with our bike pedestrian manager, and of course the members of our subcommittee. But like everyone else, we too will be drilling more deeply into our work plan and its revision and update for the upcoming year. And then separately, but related, of course, we are all looking forward to a lot of activity and engagement for Bike Month in May. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Right. That brings us to staff reports.
So first, going back to the Vision Zero position, we have 8 applicants so far that have applied. The reason it was posted and then taken down and reposted is the position was reclassified to a higher position. So that was part of the adjustment to the posting, and it is currently open, and it still not sure when it closes, but it should be closing shortly, and we've had good responses.
Glad to hear it was upgraded. It's a really important position.
Also in updates, a reminder that tomorrow is the 5-point study kickoff meeting. That meeting is at Hayes Barton Baptist Church Fellowship Hall off of Glenwood Avenue, and the meeting is from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. We would love for y'all to attend if you are able to. And then lastly, a update, and I have to find my window so I get the dates correct. Resurfacing will be beginning soon, including the bike lane, the resurfacing that includes bike lanes. Whitaker Mill is expected to take place in late June, early July. Little Briar Creek Lane will be late May, early June. Harvest Oaks in mid to late July, and Pleasant Valley Road in late September, early October. Please keep in mind that that schedule can fluctuate a little bit. It's highly contingent on weather, but that is their anticipated schedule at this moment. And those are the 4 resurfacing projects that will include bike lanes this year. And those are my only updates.
All right. I think I saw a position that looked like it might have been what was the transportation planning director get posted. Is that a new title now? You don't haven't know anything about that, do you?
Transportation planning manager, I believe,
Okay.
is what was posted. That was formerly Eric Lamb's position.
That's been posted as well and it's
Yes.
going forward. Excellent.
And good evening. No report from me tonight, but it's good to see everyone.
And I would like to follow up on what Nick mentioned about Bike Month and your little pile of goodies. You have a Bike Month poster that you can print. You have a Bike Month t-shirt. If it's the wrong size or you don't want the swag, let me know. Or if you want more swag, we also have an invitation to a traffic garden that Mary Jo and I and a team have been working on at Marbles. And even if you don't have kids, we'd love for you to come and or invite someone that might be able to help influence when, you know, if something that could happen in the future. And the Greenway ride is specifically between the Parks Committee and the BPAC, so hopefully you will be able to be there to be supportive of that event because it's your event. And that is, and really, any feedback you have about Bike Month, we'd love to hear it. That's it.
So this is the poster that I can, or it's going out to the parks.
Poster, and it has been given to all the community centers. So they should have at least one in each community center, and you can put that on any city property without being scolded.
Yay.
Actually, that they may not want you to.
Right
put
on the
it
police
everywhere,
car.
but it is city branded, so yes.
If I could just briefly extend my thanks and gratitude to B and the entire city Department of Transportation team and all their work in coordinating our Bike Month activities with our various partners and advocacy organizations. You know, you love to see it. I do have one thought that comes to mind somewhat immediately as I see for the first time our Bike Month poster. You know, our investments as a community in improved cycling and pedestrian infrastructure, it's something that all neighborhoods, you know, all communities, all populations benefit from. And I'd like to encourage, you know, with our communications team, whenever we put out materials, especially as relates to, celebrating cycling infrastructure, but quite frankly, with regard to any sort of communications we're putting out on behalf of the city, I think it would be meaningful to see communications wherein there are visuals depicting our community that reflect the totality of the community. I'm struck by the lack of that representation in the material. That is it. That is it. That is it. Other than that, I'm very excited about Bike Month and looking forward to seeing as many folks as possible come through and participate in the activities that our team has set up and organized. So with all that being said, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And if I might piggyback off of B's invitation for the traffic garden, the reason why I'd like to do that is there is a call for volunteers. I'll be leading the core volunteers who will be implementing the traffic garden. It's pop-up, which means it goes in that morning and comes down at the end of the event. The event itself is from 10 to 2 p.m., but setting it up will start at 8 a.m. So we only have about 2 hours, crunch time, to implement something that typically takes about 11 man-hours to do. So I'm very confident that the core crew that will show up and assist in the process will get a real quality project done. There is a theme to it. It's Safe Routes to School. So we're excited by that prospect as well. And I just want to reiterate that a traffic garden is an obstacle course, but it's a course for teaching transportation safety, and it enables us to teach children how to react to traffic signs, and in a way that expedites their learning curve. All children know how to stop at a stop sign, but necessarily not how to go. And a traffic guard enables them to pretend and play in a safe space to learn how to respond to the traffic sign itself. So if you guys find anybody that'd be interested in waking up early Saturday morning, send them to Hargett Street in front of Marbles. B and I will show up around 6:30, 7 a.m. So come at any time before 10 a.m. and we'll have something for you to do. So that's it for just adding on to B's piece.
And to also build off of that Bike to Work Day, we are still looking for businesses or organizations that are interested in hosting a Bike to Work Day pit stop. I believe B has shared some language in an email that we encourage you guys to send out. If you know of anyone that would be open to hosting a pit stop, we can resend that as well. There's a form online where they can sign up and register their pit stop. The more, the better. So if you know of anyone, please reach out to them, and we can, if you put them in touch with us, we can help them fill out that form. And we also encourage you to visit the pit stops on Bike to Work Day.
All right, so before we move on to the general board comments, I'd like to give Ms. Jones a chance to come to the podium, talk about the Parks Board.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christina Jones, the Parks Board Liaison. I have some comments about general Parks Board stuff, and then I'll go by committee. I did have two quick questions because either I wasn't listening or I just missed it. The Bike to Work Day, what is that day?
May 20th, it's a Friday.
May 20th. And then the Marbles Traffic Garden, what day is that?
Saturday, May 7th.
May 7th. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I had those dates correct. All right. On the big scale, we are losing our park director, Oscar Carmona. He did put in his resignation and is no longer with us. He left April 8th. He moved back to Texas. He is a vice president of, the name escapes me, but he left on April 8th, and we are in interim right now with Scott Payne. The timetable that we're looking at is August before we get a new parks director, in which Scott Payne will be our interim director. He's done it before, so he's no stranger to the role. He does not want to be parks director, so we've asked him. So that's the grand scale. He will be not running, but will be part of our meetings and in that capacity for the next few months. Committee by committee, our Greenway Committee has not met since the Greenway Master Plan. That was our work plan item, and we have not met since. So we will be doing our retreat the first week of June, and then we'll rethink about what we want to work for with that committee. AJ Fletcher, our volunteer awards are on May 10th. So if you can, come out. We have some great volunteers that we all got to speak with and meet, and we're really excited to celebrate them. So please come out. The Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Tree Committee just met about 30 minutes before this meeting, and that was our April meeting. We had a tree celebration, or a pick your favorite tree in Raleigh competition in celebration for Arbor Day, and we had 17 submissions, and our winner, I was so floored by the responses because it was within a 2.5 week period, and we had 3,300 views to the website. We had over 400 votes, and the winning tree won a little over 250 votes, and it's on NC State campus. So if you go to the website, it's called The Tree. I don't know, but it's this beautiful ginkgoba. Yep, there we are.
Ginkgo biloba.
Huh? What is it?
Sorry, I was forestry major at State. It's a ginkgo biloba.
There it is.
Have I shown you my
Forestry major. That's amazing. Didn't even know. So it's this beautiful tree, and the picture that you'll see on the website is this yellow foliage. It is gorgeous. The stipulations were that the public needed to be able to access the tree. And that is in celebration of Arbor Day. Hopefully this is our pilot year, so we didn't really do much, but I asked that next year we have a party so that we can take pictures by the tree and celebrate. They will get a plaque and a certificate from the parks, board. So go over there, take a picture, take a selfie with it. I don't know. But that's Parks Committee, or that was SWET Committee, and then Parks Committee. I'm super excited. We had our first Welcome to Raleigh series event on April 7th in partnership with Raleigh Youth Council over at Abbott's Creek. And we did an egg. It wasn't a hunt, but it was just like a egg day. We got to take pictures with the bunny rabbit, and there were so many participants, and so we were super excited. We are equally excited to partner with you guys on May 21st, and that date eludes me. Yep, there it is. Okay. And there we will be teaching people just like basic bike functions, how to change a tire, how to pump air into your tire, things like that. Guys, I'm not really good on bikes. I have one, but I have not got on it. So this will be the first time in a while. So we're excited. We meet the same week as this. So this Thursday will be our meeting. You're more than welcome to join us there. And I think that's it. Those are my updates from Parks.
Thank you very much. That
No
was
problem. Thank you.
very thorough. All right, so now we open it up to general board comments. So if you have something you'd like to bring to the attention of the commission, comments you'd like to make that don't pertain to anything else on the agenda,
I do.
please go ahead.
First, wanted to, Michael's left us. Happy to announce thank you to Chair Otwell and staff that the curb ramps right by Conn Elementary School that I trip over almost every day are being repaired at the moment. And kids will be able to ride their bike over that ramp and traverse an intersection more safely. And I don't know, I think from identification of the problem to construction was 2 months, 3 months? I mean, astounding. Really wonderful. So thank you very, very much. And also, thinking about traffic gardens, I was delighted to stumble across one last week in Baltimore, Safety City.
Oh,
sponsored by the
that's a
Baltimore-
permanent one.
Yeah, there's a permanent one. So if you ever find yourself at Druid Hill Park, one of the nation's first and largest parks, you can see one in the flesh, the permanent ones. It's pretty exceptional. And it gave me a better idea of what you're aiming for, and I can't wait to see it at Marbles. So,
Oh, cool.
thank you.
Awesome.
And that's it.
Yeah, I'd like to share my experience. 2 weeks ago, I went to Washington, D.C. for the National Bike Summit. And while I was there, I was able to participate in the public school system's second grade PE bike ed classes. So that was a dream come true for me. It was a real delight. What I wanted to highlight, though, was something that was related to the Bike Summit. And all attendees received a $75 credit to use the Capital Bike Share. So that was a real incentive to learn it. And what I learned is that the Capital Bike Share program is owned by Lyft, so a for-profit organization. And I was using their app to find the docking stations, and they are quite spread out. So you can use their system as a real mode for travel, but also to connect to the transit services. But what was really cool is that on the app in the lower part were two functions. One was bike share, so you click on that side and it showed you where all the stations were. The other button was transit. There was an image of a bus, and you clicked on that, and you could choose between their bus services or the metro. And it showed you the routes of the transit services, which is very helpful, as you can imagine. But the most important part was that it showed real time. They had miniature little blocks that were on the routes, and so you could really see or time yourself for the transit services. And by featuring the transit real time on the Bike Share app, increased my ability of mobility tremendously. I started out the week confused. By the end of the week, I was full on in great shape. I had remembered how to sprint again. And so that lifestyle was very appealing. It struck me to have that real time on a bike share app. So I spoke with Michelle Hood last week about that. And she said that that was a feature that they wanted to implement on Cardinal Bike Share's app, and that they were in discussion with the city, from, if I remember her correctly. But it has kind of gone to the wayside. And she's very much interested in picking it up again. And I think it's something that the city should seriously consider as we expand our bike share services, to feature that one-stop shopping app where any visitor, resident or somebody from out of town, comes to Raleigh, and they're able to connect all the modes of transportation in order for them to effortlessly get around the city and reduce the dependency for just car travel. And that's what I wanted to share the most.
If I could add to that really quickly, thank you for sharing that, Mary Jo. That's really great to hear what's happening in DC with transit integration. I will pick up that conversation with Michelle. I'd be happy to do that, and bring back a report at a later time on where that's heading with the city. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
That technology, the first in the nation, I think, was NC State graduates that did the tracking on the buses. I think they started with the Wolf Line and then moved into the municipal transit services. So,
yeah, I am familiar with Transloc. I mean, I used it when I was, before the pandemic, and I do understand the difficulties that the technology is still kind of in what's the expression? Yeah. Work in progress. But what I really liked about the Bike Shares app, using it was an unexpected space. And so I no longer had to flip or jump from one app to the next app to the next app. Because they consolidated it, because I was familiar, I could see by a quick change in just the image on the apps, mapping system from the docks to the metro lines, elevated or it exponentially increased my ability to make those connections visually, and gave me that learning experience I needed to become more efficient. So that's really what was different, is that it was that one-stop app instead of going between different ones.
Mr. Otwell, if I could offer just a brief comment on additional transit integration that I had the privilege of being exposed to in South Florida while touring commuter rail networks along with elected officials and transportation planners from across our region, including our mayor, Madam Baldwin, and Councilor Corey Branch, Wake County Commissioner Chair Sig Hutchinson, and again, many others from across Wake County, Durham County, and Johnson County. The specific comment that I wanted to make is that all throughout this tour and the meetings we held with local elected officials, economic development officials, transit planners in South Florida, all throughout, they were very keen to communicate the integration of bike share programs, the integration of bike and pedestrian improvements alongside these transit corridors, alongside the commuter rail systems. In other words, they'll be the first to tell you, South Florida, or Florida as a whole, one of the worst in the country in terms of, traffic fatalities with, bike and pedestrians. But they're actively, working every day to improve that infrastructure. And the follow-through on that is they also spoke to the fact that businesses have seen an uptick, right, in business from cyclists coming through off of the commuter rail, off of these cycling networks. They were very quick to point out the ways in which the business community benefited. It's just well documented, the benefit from this, the improvements in sort of local bike pedestrian infrastructure. And it was awesome to see it in real time. And of course, grateful to see our elected officials and transit planners hearing it in real time from our colleagues in Florida. So just, again, in terms of transit integration was really grateful to see that and hear that. And hopefully we'll be applying those lessons learned here locally in the near future.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to offer, or as a follow-up to what Mary Jo said about having a single app, while it doesn't do everything, it doesn't have all the ability to do the bike checkout and everything. The transit app currently does, it's more transit focused, so it shows you all the bus information, but in the same app it will show you where all the where all the bike share stations are, and like how many bikes there are and things like that. So you can, and like it will do like trip training. So it will figure out, okay, I can take this bus route here and then get on a Citrix cycle and go the rest of the way. So until we have like a more, fuller solution, transit app, it's just called Transit.
So that's
on the App Store.
independent?
Yeah, it's a private thing, not to shell for anybody, but it's a free app, so it's like, whatever. But yeah, it's just called Transit. I think it's on everything, but it does some of what you're saying.
Right. Thank you so much for mentioning it. Is that something that the city can promote, even though it's not an official product of the city? In order to, in our educational marketing materials, to enhance the rider, to enhance visitors' experience, can we promote other businesses like Commissioner Caruso was mentioning, the transit app?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it'd be similar to like Google Maps. Like I think they're just consuming a feed that the city puts out saying, hey, here's where our stuff is. So you can go to like whatever app you want to use and get that.
All right,
but
thanks.
I don't know as far as like official endorsements or whatever.
There could be a liability concern.
Right.
I
Yeah.
suppose,
I'm
with
sure
the city
that would have
endorsing it.
They used to use Transloc, so.
Right. Yeah. There used to be Transloc, and
Certainly.
I think there still is, but so I don't know what kind of agreement there is with that, but yeah.
Okay. Well, then the
As
merits
a-
to continue looking down with our city offering something.
As a non-official endorsement of no kind, Transit app is out there, and I use it quite frequently. It's very nice.
Okay, thanks for the tip.
All right, thank you everybody for your comments, and I really like to hear from our commissioners that go out to educational and exploratory fact-finding missions. That's great. Thank you. Including the Baltimore Traffic Garden, so we have several.
Nerd wherever I go. My husband laughs at me taking pictures of ramps.
All right, so do we have any more upcoming events? I know we discussed some of the bike month things, and the Tuesday tomorrow we have the meeting, the 5 Points safety meeting kicks off. Thursday we have canceled the walk with Councilor Melton, so if anybody's planning on going to that, that has been canceled. That was an informal walk that Susan Hatchell had arranged to make Councilman Melton walk up and down Glenwood Avenue and see what was going on. But they're gonna reschedule that, and that's all I have off the top of my head. It looks like you're.
Yes, Chairman Otwell, I do have one additional event this Wednesday, April 20th. Our City of Raleigh Planning and Development team will be hosting an update on the New Bern Station area planning process, sort of specifically giving an update on some feedback that was received from our community in relation to improving the walkability and bikeability around the station areas, addressing affordability in terms of housing choices near the bus rapid transit stations, and among other concerns that they're going to provide updates on. This will be hosted in sort of two ways, both in person and online. There are drop-in opportunities at Tarboro Community Center, again, April 20th from 1 to 7 p.m. And then online, they'll be hosting an event from 6 to 7 p.m. And they'll also have a survey available online as well. But just, for those who may be interested and available, I know I've seen Commissioner Stern, if I'm not mistaken, attending some of these programs previously. And so, for those who might be interested in the, again, improved walkability, bikeability, among the other concerns being addressed, it's very exciting because, the New Bern bus rapid transit system and corridor should serve as a model for us moving forward, potentially, with other corridors. I mean, ideally, we will get through this initial stretch that should come online in 2024, and then moving forward with the other corridors, do bigger and better, ideally. That, of course, would be the goal. But again, Wednesday, April 20th, there's an opportunity to check in with the City of Raleigh Planning and Development team led by Jason Harden, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think it's really important for us to get out there as much as we can to these kind of events. It's a wonderful opportunity to take the temperature of the different communities. Often get to meet some of the planners and the city councilmen, councilwomen, and have discussions that you wouldn't otherwise get to have. And it's I think, a great way to make us a stronger commission. So I encourage anybody that can do so to make it to these meetings. And speaking of which, if you were going to attend the city council meeting tomorrow, but you just couldn't make it down, because who can make it downtown in the middle of the day? It's going to be virtual tomorrow. So you can turn it on. On your TV and just let it run in the background all afternoon and evening if you'd like to. Do we have any other announcements? Please go ahead.
It's not a specific event per se, but in addition to the activities with New Bern, there was an email blast that went out. There's the as part of the Wake Transit Plan and all of those groups. They're currently soliciting feedback for the study to look at future extensions to the BRT system. So once the initial 4 segments are built out, they're looking at expanding the southern section, I believe, down further into Garner, potentially out towards Clayton, and then the western section from where it will currently end Cary, and then up through into more of Cary and into RTP. So Campo is running that, I believe, and sent out an email, and comments are accepted until April 30th. It's WakeBRTExtensionsStudy.com. So I'm sure you can just go on the Campo website and find it, but there's a specific link.
Can you repeat that, please?
Wake BRT Extensions with an S and then another S study.com.
Thanks.
And if that does it for announcements for upcoming events, I think that we can confirm that we will have our BPAC retreat in lieu of our next meeting. It will be on the same day, but we're going to move the time up 2 hours. Meet at 4 o'clock at Raleigh Union Station, and it will go till 7 o'clock. And we'll have a 3-hour long retreat, and we'll have a deeper dive into the budget and our work plan. And I believe that does it. And if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting and look forward to seeing everybody in the coming month. Thank you.